families and friends, prepare yourself for bad news. The communications abruptly ended.
This is the one-of-a-kind carbon fibre Titan submersible, missing in the dark waters of the North Atlantic, with 5 people on board since Sunday.
There could have been an accident, it could have become entangled in the wreckage of Titanic, it could indeed have had a catastrophic failure. The answer is we don't know just yet.
Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel, Vibing After Dark _with Mo. And if you're new to my channel, how about hit that subscribe button? And if you're a returning subscriber, how about sending it to a family or a friend so they can vibe out with us? And please make sure you like this video. That helps out a lot, and thanks in advance. Now, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about this Titan submersible that went missing by OceanGate since June 18, followed by a dive to visit the Titanic wreckage. Now, it was carrying 5 passengers, and I'm going to name all the 5 passengers, and I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about them before I get into the story. This is not my typical video, but I've been so invested in, been watching this like a hawk since it's been going on. So as I break down the story, I will be showing y'all images. I will be showing y'all clips of like the news crew, so y'all can listen at what they're talking about. And I'll also let y'all see some of the videos of the people that took a trip and took this dive before and what they had to say about this whole expedition and the vessel itself. But first I'm going to get into the passengers that was on this vessel, and then I'm going to get into the rest of the stuff. So first we have Hamish Harding, and I apologize if I'm saying these people's names wrong, but they are all a little difficult to say. But he is 58 years old. He's a billionaire who's an airplane pilot. He lives in Dubai and is a big fan of adventures. Okay, so next we have Paul Henry. I'm not going to butcher his last name because I don't know it. He's the pilot of the Titan, and he previously was a commander of the French Navy since 1986. He led several expeditions to view the remains of the Titanic, and in 2010 he was the one who created the full map of the Titanic. And the third passenger is Stockton Rush. He's the CEO, he's the founder, he's the president of OceanGate. He became a jet pilot at 19. He served as a flight test engineer. His purpose is to focus on advanced technologies for the marine world and archaeology. And the last 2 passengers is Shahzada and Solomon. Like I say, excuse me how I pronounce the names, but these are father and son. The father is 48 and the son is 19, and they're one of the most recognized family in Pakistan, so that's where they're from. And those are all the passengers that was on this vessel at this time. Now, to give y'all a little detailed description of the size of this vessel and how much space and room that this have, is very small, very uncomfortable seating. So it's 22 feet long and 9.2 feet wide, and is 8.3 feet in height. To put in perspective, the Titan's main compartment has much space as a minivan without chairs. So imagine taking like a 12 to 13 hour trip, or maybe a 24 to 36 hour trip, like cooped up in a minivan. And so they have chairs. So this vessel here, it don't have chairs. So you got 5 people in this little small thing without seats, and you just like basically facing the wall in Indian style, or you can just lay down and stretch out. Like, you probably have to talk to your neighbors to see if y'all can like take turns to like stretch out. Like, that's crazy. Because even if you take a trip in a car, you can have time to stop, stretch, walk, everything like this. But in this vessel, you're down there. And it takes up to 2 hours, they said, to get down there, and 2 hours to get back up. So that whole time, y'all sitting on this curved wall that, like I said, pretty much is uncomfortable, looking through this little peephole to see the Titanic in the ocean. So this Titan vessel is designed to go as deep as 13,000 feet in the ocean. The Titanic wreckage sits at about 12,000 feet in the ocean. So they trying to say it's pretty safe to go do this with this vessel, but it's seeming like to me like at this point it's really not safe at all. It holds up to 96 hours of oxygen reserved for 5 crew members, but it could be affected depends on how their breathing is. Like, so for instance, right now that they lost, imagine being lost down there that deep down in the ocean, and you might cannot really be able to get out. You're going to be panicking and you breathing fast. So you're taking up more oxygen than you're supposed to. And actually, they're not supposed to be down there as many days that they have already been not found. So it's kind of scary at this point. And this is right here is just a clear-cut picture that you can just imagine in your mind how big the ocean is, how deep the ocean is, how big the Titanic ship was, and how small this vessel is. So I want y'all to just look at this picture for a second and just imagine the size of that little vessel. And this is why it's so hard for them to find them, because there's no more communication, no signal. They don't know if like they even have power anymore. They don't know if they're stuck inside the Titanic boat. That's what people speculating. They don't know what's going on. And at 12,500 feet underwater, with the Titanic being at the bottom of the ocean, to give y'all a perspective and how they referenced it, they said 9 Empire State Buildings that's in New York stacked on top of each other is how deep this ocean is, where the Titanic is at the bottom and where they're stuck at. Or either 2 miles long. So if y'all go for a walk and y'all know how long 2 miles is, like walking distance, just imagine the next time y'all do a 2 mile walk and y'all can say that's how deep this Titanic is at the bottom, where these people took this little vessel to go see and explore. And also, the deeper you go down, the darker the sea gets, the freezing temperatures get worse, and the water pressure is 380 times larger down there. And y'all, since it's so deep up underwater, the radio waves is not reliable in the ocean. So the vessels like this use up underwater, they use underwater sounds to transmit data packets across the ocean. So the receiving party abroad a ship, which is the Polar Prince, it can then use a hydrophone to receive the data transmitted acoustically, which can then be converted into understandable information like text or audio. And then with those special instructions, the pilot steers the vessel on a modified video game controller. Yeah, just any old video game controller that you can get from any gaming store. That's what they use to control the up, down movements of the vessel under the water. Now, I don't want to bore y'all too much. I just want to give y'all basically like the details of the vessel itself and what it's looking like, what it had to deal with. And y'all, it costs $250,000 per person to go down to see the Titanic on this vessel. My question is why? If it's so dangerous, why would you want to go down there? But like I said, they went down there before. They're adventurous type of people. They done went to the moon. They done did all kind of stuff. So this is what they are into. So they're going to pay that price to do what they are into. But I'm going to move forward and I'm going to play y'all a clip of some people that took their trip a time before and what they thought about it. And then I'll start playing y'all some of the news clips.
There's very little information on the website. I didn't know at that point that you drive the thing with an Xbox game controller. I didn't know that the ballast was, used construction pipes. And then you get the tour and stock.
So as you can see, this man basically built this thing on his own. And I'm trying to still figure out, like, how did this get passed? Like, did it not go through some, like, tests? Like, I don't understand. Like, how did this get passed to do this?
Rush, the designer of the sub, the CEO, explains to you that all of this stuff, the lights and the handles and the propellers, these are off-the-shelf parts. Because, well, not only are they inexpensive, but they're tried and true. They're mass-produced. The part we care about is the pressure vessel, the capsule where the people are. And that he designed with NASA and the University of Washington. And that, he says, is as locked down as it gets. His exact words were, everything else can fail, the lights can go out, the propellers can stop, but you will still be alive. Once I was in the sub with Stockton and the scientists and the crews outside doing what they had rehearsed over and over, I felt okay. I felt excited. I felt like they wouldn't do this if it was really dangerous.
You steer the ship with a controller, with a joystick from a gaming system, a home gaming system. And that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, that how very simple this submarine is and how easy it is to navigate. It was simplicity all the way through it, simplicity and an elegance to it.
Yeah, you are bolted in from the outside. There are 18 bolts in a circle around the head.
And that's another thing, you guys. Like, so let's say even if this vessel somehow just come back on the top of water, they still may not make it out alive because they cannot open it themselves. So if nobody found them on top of the water after these couple hours of oxygen run out, they still may not be alive because they cannot get out from the inside. Someone literally have to come open it from the outside.
Hatch. And by the way, they only fasten 17 of them. The 18th one is way up high, and they say there's really no mathematical difference. So you're right. The really nightmarish scenario is that they are alive at the surface, bobbing away, running out of air, and unable to get out.
There's special training just to learn how to get into an escape suit, in and out of that. It's a very tough thing to get into these kind of warm weather coveralls that will float you if you have to bail from a ship or escape from a submarine. Beyond that, no real training. When we went down, it was just, there were communication problems on every trip I've taken. Of the 4 separate dives I'd taken with Ocean Gate, every time there was a problem with at least sporadically communicating with the surface. And again, I don't think that's their fault as much as just that's the nature of the beast. When you're going 1,000 feet or 13,000 feet underwater, you're going to lose contact for a while.
It's tragic, and I deeply feel for the families and the kids of these men. But I have to say, it comes with the life of a risk taker.
Okay, so these 2 men, they have taken this dive to visit the Titanic before with this company. And like you heard that man say, every time he went down, it was complications. It was things that was going on. And another one was talking about how he thought he was not going to make it out. And I'll show y'all that.
As we approach the stern of the ship, we're suddenly caught up in a strong underwater current that pushes us towards one of the gigantic 21-ton propellers.
Oh my God, look at the size of these things.
Oh my gosh, so are we stuck or what?
As this graphic shows, we appear to be somehow wedged beneath the wreck of the stern.
A scary moment for you. Does this bring back pretty awful memories of what happened to you and what could have happened?
Yeah. I'm feeling pretty sick right now. And agree with the lieutenant. The 2 things that come out at me right now is the loss of communications, because even when we were stuck down there, our pilot, who was a former Russian MiG pilot, was piloting our 3-man sub, much smaller than the one that's currently in this situation. And he was able to communicate with the surface ship, the research vessel, the Academic Keldysh, on the surface. I couldn't understand what they were saying. It was all in Russian, but nevertheless. And then the second thing that stands out to me, Pierce, is, as the lieutenant pointed out, if it had just been a failure of communications, then that pilot would have brought that thing up to the surface immediately. So, I mean, we can speculate endlessly. I hate doing it because lives are at stake.
I'm really sorry. I
know
can see.
exactly what that feels like.
Yeah,
I also feel to be stuck under there and be utterly hopeless. It's not easy to get out of that.
I can see the emotion there in you. That this is obviously and indeed also for you, Yannick, because Dr. Michael, I guess you must have had a moment when you were in a similar situation where you thought you may not get out of it, right?
Yeah, more than a moment, the better part of an hour. And being a scientist, of course, I'm a professional problem solver. So my first instinct was, number one, to hope nobody in the cabin would panic, because we had been told by the captain of our ship before we went down that he told us a true story of a gentleman who was found himself in that situation, and in his panic went for the escape hatch to open it up. It's right above your head. And of course, it was the end of it, because as the lieutenant said, the pressures down there are enormous. I filed a story for 2020 and then Good Morning America. And just to illustrate how powerful the pressure is down there, we took some styrofoam cups, and the cup came back about that small, and all the air had been squeezed out of it from the pressure down there. That brings it home. It's a very hostile environment, very cold, very high pressure. Yes, for the better part of an hour, I kept thinking, well, how could we get out of this? There was another Russian sub in the vicinity, and I thought perhaps it could tow us out, but of course, it's not feasible. It's not AAA comes to tow you out of the mud. And I just ran through the checklist of things in my mind, and I finally came to that moment, that brick wall, that utter sense of hopelessness. And the words that came into my mind were, this is how it's going to end for you. And you have to understand, I've been to the North Pole, the South Pole. I've covered the Persian Gulf War for 14 years, ABC News. I've been all over the world. I've been in harm's way everywhere. But those words came into my mind, and I'll never forget them. This is how it's going to end for you. And I thought of my wife, Laurel, and thought I'd never see her again. Just by the grace of God, Victor and his skill managed to weasel our way out of that big propeller. It's a big propeller. Our ship was very small. You have to understand. It's a huge propeller. Our ship is small in comparison. We just got trapped in the blades. But if it weren't for Victor's heroic efforts, I wouldn't be here today to tell you about this. But it's just terrible. It makes me sick.
Well,
so y'all just heard from him, and that's sad just listening to him like talk about his experience down there and how it was like felt like near death to him. So imagine these people since Sunday. I'm just trying to wrap my mind like, what are, if they still alive, hopefully they are, what are they thinking? Like, are they at the point now that they just gave up? Or I wonder if they're like trying to still fight, or especially this father and son. Like, I know they gotta be down there like holding each other, crying, panicking. Like, do they have enough food? Do they have enough water? Like, are they freezing? Because like I said, they said that they could possibly be out of power. So it's freezing down there. So are they even gonna make it through the temperature? Like, are they wishing they never had did it? Like, or they just feel like, I knew the risk, so I'm just going to take it at face value and this is the end of us? Or I'm not sure. I just got a lot of questions as to why. But anyway, I'm gonna let y'all listen to like the latest news conference, a little piece of it, and they are going to explain like what all they are doing in search. And tomorrow morning is like the last bit of oxygen left that they have. So I want to know, like, are they going to call off the search after tomorrow morning, or are they still going to be searching for these people? Or I don't know, y'all. I just got a lot of questions.
Capability to search below the surface. We currently have 5 surface assets searching for the Titan, and we expect 10 total surface assets to search in the next 24 to 48 hours. There are 2 ROVs actively searching, and several more are en route and will arrive by tomorrow morning. We've received incredible support with aviation assets from our Coast Guard Air Station in Elizabeth City, the Air National Guard, and Canadian Armed Forces. Today there are 2 back-to-back P3 flights. One is ongoing now as I speak, totaling 14 hours of continuous on-scene coverage, and 2 C-130 flights, also one ongoing now, throughout the day and into the evening. Yesterday, a Canadian P3 detected underwater noises in the search area. As a result, ROV operations were relocated in an attempt to explore the origin of the noises. Although the ROV searches have yielded negative results, they continue. Additionally, the data from the P-3 aircraft has been shared with our U.S. Navy experts for further analysis, which will be considered in future search plans. The surface search is now approximately 2 times the size of Connecticut, and the subsurface search is up to 2.5 miles deep, exponentially expanding the size of the search area. We also have to factor in the ever-changing weather conditions, currents, and sea states that expand the search area every hour.
So y'all heard just what they had to say. They got underwater drones. They got like people flying in the air to see if they can spot them on top of the water. They have like boats on the sea on top of the water to see if they see anything. Like, imagine the amount of money they're spending on trying to find these people. That's just crazy to me. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know what to say. Y'all, I apologize for how long this video is, but it's just a lot to get into. And there's a lot more, but I can't just keep showing like everybody else's clips because I get copyrighted. And hopefully what I showed right here won't be copyrighted. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this whole situation down below in the comment section below. And I'll update you guys like probably tomorrow to see if they're going to continue, to see if they found them, to see what they're going to do. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Bye.
This is the one-of-a-kind carbon fibre Titan submersible, missing in the dark waters of the North Atlantic, with 5 people on board since Sunday.
There could have been an accident. It could have become entangled in the wreckage of Titanic. It could indeed have had a catastrophic failure. The answer is we don't know just yet.
Contact with the sub was lost nearly 2 hours into its dive to the Titanic, 700 kilometres south of the coast of Newfoundland in Canada.
It is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area.
Crews scouring both the surface and waters nearly 13,000 feet deep.
There aren't many submersibles that are capable of going to these depths. It's harder to go to that depth than it is to go to the moon.